Welcome back. We are here with Dr. Uma Naidoo, psychiatrist, nutritionist, chef, expert on food and mood and food and energy and food and focus, food and memory, food in your
Mental
mind.
health.
This is your brain on food.
And why don't you read the website for that?
August 4th, umanaidoomd.com, umanaidoomd.com. The book will be available everywhere. It's published by Little Brown. It publishes many of our friends, Mark Hyman and David Perlmutter.
Mm-hmm.
We're just very excited to meet you and spend time with
Thank you so much.
And if you learned something during this podcast, post it on any of your social media. I mean, write it down, take a picture of it, post it, and then hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast. We're now at 8.5 million downloads. We're so grateful to all of you that are listening. But we want you to get this book. We Brain Warriors, they're armed, prepared, and aware to win the fight of their lives. Starts with food.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with what you put in your body.
You know, one thing I want to address with you too, at some point, if maybe we can talk about tips, because like you said, you addressed the fact that we are a culture that likes sweet foods. And we talked about the Mediterranean diet. And I remember I got so hooked on the dessert when we were on our Mediterranean cruises, when we were in Greece. They have cold Greek yogurt with a tiny bit of honey drizzled on it with walnuts. Everywhere you go, that's what they have for dessert. And it was so much simpler than like our ice cream and our, all these things.
Absolutely.
And it had a little honey, but not much.
Right.
But it didn't have all the processed chemicals and all this stuff. And I got hooked on it. I was just like, that is such a good idea.
And it's so delicious, and
so
you could have it. I totally agree with that. I love that. And it's the creaminess of the Greek yogurt makes it even better.
Yeah.
The drizzle of honey, then you add on the crunchiness of the walnuts. It's all great brain food right there. It's your prebiotics. It's, honey is sort of glucose. It goes directly to your brain. So that's a great food for you, and in moderation. We're not saying have a jug of it. And I like that there's almost an emphasis on healthier options for desserts. And I think that where we sometimes get into trouble here is that our desserts are and trust me, I love to bake. I learned to bake before I learned how to cook. But part of my challenge is I try to figure out, is there a way that I can make this cupcake healthier? I made a chocolate cupcake recently with zucchini in it.
That sounds like me, yeah.
And with zucchini and alternate types of flour to see, can I, change it around, but have it still look like a cupcake, So it's all those little things. And there's this cool stuff about chocolate, where chocolate, we know, is a great brain food, but it's the super dark chocolate. And it's really telling people the right kind of chocolate to get.
Without all the sugar in it, right?
Without all the added sugar and fats in it, right? And it also turns out that the process of making, roasting the cacao beans and the process by which chocolate is made, the super dark form has fermentation involved. So, it's potentially also a good food for your gut. So I like to recommend super dark chocolate and try to give people guidelines about the types to get, because it requires a little bit of quiet taste.
They look simple
in here. But they're delicious. I'm like golden milk. And, and I'm not a fan of dairy because most people are lactose intolerant. But let me finish. A cup of almond milk, a teaspoon of ground turmeric, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, half teaspoon of honey, and a quarter teaspoon of grated nutmeg.
That sounds amazing.
And it sounds delicious. And it's good for you. So you love it and it loves you back. Right? We never want to be in an abusive relationship with food. But we have to talk about PTSD. Because I want to talk about some of these psychiatric, because that's why people come to see us. Either they're struggling or they love someone who's struggling. So talk to us about PTSD and food, because so many people are traumatized. today.
Absolutely. It's becoming so much a part of what's going on. And I have to say, it's probably some of the stuff that we're experiencing during this current stage of life, or phase of the universe, I should say, that for different reasons, people are just either, some of my patients, even at the beginning, were traumatized by watching all the COVID statistics across the screen. And, it turns out that there are certain foods we can embrace. And that's how we try to frame the list. And I should also say that these sheets at little tables we have at the end of each chapter, there's some overlap, because understanding that someone may pick up the book because they have PTSD, someone else may pick it up for depression, someone else may have both. So there is some overlap of the foods, but we also looked at the specific foods for a specific diagnosis. And it turns out that even half a cup of blueberries a day can help individuals who've had PTSD and help them through it. So including that in breakfast or as a healthy snack would be great. We come back to the omega-3s. They're good in so many different disorders, that my attitude about that is, if you can eat foods that have omega-3s, why not? It's not going to harm you. It's only going to be good for you. And it also helps symptoms of trauma. It also turns out that vitamin E helps out. Again, we come back to the turmeric. And then the other food we found was that ginkgo biloba had some positive effects. I do try to stick more with foods though, so I tend to give people more of a list that moves toward what foods can you use and what foods can you eat. And then I also ask them to be aware of things like sources of glutamates, because those actually are one of the foods you want to avoid. So if you're going to a Chinese restaurant, a simple thing like just ask for MSG-free food, or make choices, or go to restaurants that don't have those types of things in them.
I actually have scans on and off MSG. And MSG for vulnerable people disrupts their brain. Mm-hmm. And so does red dye number 40 for some. And so trying to eat whole food, clean food is critical. What about for ADHD?
So if I could just go back to the point about the red dye, you're absolutely right, because the other foods that go along with avoiding glutamates and the MSG type foods are actually all the processed foods. Those are things, we sort of know that we should stay away from the high sugared foods and things like that. And then, the interesting thing with ADHD is that some of the studies didn't necessarily show that that sugar was the worst offender. But, we always want to be a little bit careful about that. Things that did help, we have actually a recipe for a smoothie. And what we did is a study that had shown improvement in symptoms of ADHD. What they had done in this is created a bar, a breakfast bar for the study. And because this breakfast bar, and usually some of those breakfast bars that we buy commercially could be highly sugared or have different things in them. What we did is we took that study and the information from the breakfast bar and we turned it into a smoothie in the book. So one of the things we suggest is that, firstly, breakfast is a really important meal, especially for individuals with ADHD. And we suggest that they eat something. So we created the smoothie for that reason. Then we give them guidelines around things like caffeine, staying to a low amount. If you do drink coffee, even certain teas, stick to moderate amounts, stick to the lower end of the amounts, because they can make your symptoms feel worse. And embrace foods like berries, cherries, eggplant, onions, kale, green tea, all of that, because of the polyphenols that are so good for the symptoms. And foods that have vitamin C and vitamin Bs in them. And then, the good minerals that we know help us, such as zinc, magnesium, potassium. And those are some of the things that you really want to embrace in order to help your symptoms along.
So if you have ADHD, and I looked up the chocolate protein.
Yes.
1 cup of unsweetened almond milk, a tablespoon of walnuts, a scoop of vanilla whey protein. We actually make vegetarian.
I don't do well with whey, and some of our
Some people
That's
don't.
right.
But-
It's an
Brain
easy
MD,
substitution.
We have a
Yeah.
vanilla protein powder that's so clean. But whey protein, a tablespoon of flax seeds,
love it.
a teaspoon of organic instant coffee powder. That's
That
interesting.
sounds yummy.
Teaspoon of natural cocoa powder, coconut flakes, honey, and a quarter ripe avocado.
That
Think of
sounds so
the
good.
nutrients in that.
So one thing that actually sounds healthier. One thing I would do when I get really early and go to the gym, I just didn't have time to make breakfast, but I knew I needed the energy, so I make a quarter calf coffee. So I would do quarter calf coffee. I would throw a scoop of protein powder in there, a little bit of MCT oil. But the avocado is healthier. But so I would just but that's would be my breakfast.
Exactly. And
it's like, it was on the go and it's like quick and it was good.
And some of it, we were trying to emulate this bar that was tested in the study, but also we just threw in a couple of extra ingredients that we thought would be an extra boost.
Delicious.
And you can, and the whole idea with the instant, the espresso powder or the little bit of coffee was because you want a little bit of caffeine to get your day going, but it's a way to contain that. So if you've put it in your smoothie, then we're suggesting, don't have 3 cups the rest of the day.
Right.
And stuff like that. And I actually, I think I really like the fact that you brought that up about the protein powder, because, we were trying to create recipes that people could feel they could get the ingredients. But I think that there's so many options.
Yeah.
I with all the recipes, I feel they're easy replacements. If you're plant-based, you can have a cauliflower steak instead of our salmon recipe or our chicken recipe. There's just an easy way to do that. And the same thing, if you don't have dairy, you should just substitute it with the equal amount of the protein powder that is a clean source for you,
All right. When we come back,
I'm so excited. I feel like I could just keep going.
I told you were going to be happy.
There's so many things I want to say.
We have one more episode with Dr. Uma Naidoo, psychiatrist, chef, nutritionist, really leader in food is medicine for your mind. You can pre-order her book now, umanaidoomd.com. It's also going to be everywhere great books are sold, August 4th. Take a picture of it, post it on any of your social media sites. Also, you can go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com, leave us a comment, question, or a review. We're so grateful you're a part of our community. Stay with us.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.